I believe. Let me check. Yes, there we go. Let's see. Mhm. Okay. What's up, Instagram? What's up, Facebook? So, oops, let me go ahead and edit this topic real quick. What's up? All right. What's up, Facebook? Hey, hey. Okay, so before I bring my guest on, I'm just setting up Instagram and Facebook here real quick. And so give me about 2 minutes, but thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you can hear me. Today's topic, a cautionary tale for women, not having your money mindset right before dating. Okay, and I do have a guest on that's going to come on. Her name is Stacy, and we are going to talk about her story, her life stories that we can learn from. Okay, so, but before we do that, let me put this on. Um, Okay. So, pen. Okay. All right. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. What's up? It is Rika here with Single You, the podcast live. I do have a guest today. Her name is Stacy. And I titled this episode A Cautionary Tale for Women Not Having Your Money Mindset Right Before Dating because of Stacy's story. So, Stacy is a woman who's passionate about educating women and their money. Throughout her life, Stacy's life, she has always stood up for what she believes in and questioned everything. Okay. As she weaves her own unique tapestry of life, she has overcome many struggles and learned valuable lessons. She is excited to share those lessons with us today around both relationships and money confidence. Here's a tagline for you because I want you to know how this story is going to go and the lesson that you're going to get from it. She's still entangled with her ex-husband who lives in a house and Stacy's name on it. Stacy's name is still on that house, and she's paying for it. Not necessarily financially, but definitely emotionally. So let's go ahead and bring Stacy to the room and let's talk about it. Stacy, hey girl, hey,
Hey girl, hey.
hey, how are you on this Monday?
I am awesome. Been really busy today helping people with their money. So
Right, you're right, because
glad to
that's
be
what
here.
you do in real life and everything. And so, thank you for wanting to share your story on my platform. And and I said this to you multiple times. I want you to know this is a safe space. We are not here to judge you. We want to hear your story and learn what we can learn. We want to take the lesson from you, which I know that's what you want to do. So,
Exactly.
yes, so you are in a safe space. Hey, if you're watching on Instagram and you want to see Stacy's face, you're going to have to go to my Facebook page. My Facebook is in my Instagram link bio, and then you can go there and then you can watch her. Otherwise, this will be on Single You, the podcast. I just like to do the behind the scenes and get the video. Okay. All right. So let's start with Stacy. Stacy, so I know that this is kind of how I want to do the flow of the conversation because we had a conversation off air, not live. And I know that you have been married and then there was a boyfriend in there and then you were married before. So that's kind of the years that we're going to be talking about for you. So let's talk about your first husband and let's just kind of skip to the divorce. Why did you guys get a divorce?
He became an alcoholic after 13 years of marriage. We had two kids, and um, it had to do with his job and 9/11. And he had to start laying people off and closing down locations, and it just took the best of him. And he just on top of other medication he was taking, it just like knocked him over. He just became a totally different person. And I had grown up with a family member who was an alcoholic, and I hated it as a
Yeah,
kid. So I didn't want to put my kids through that. And I was basically doing everything myself anyway. So I thought it would be better to leave. So
yeah.
that was in Arizona.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
we moved back to where our family is in Colorado in 2005.
Right. And during that divorce, was that something that you as the woman had to pay for all on your own? What was the financial situation in that divorce?
Well, I had stayed home for 10 years with the kids and only been back to working at their school. So for not much money for maybe 3 or 4 years. So I wasn't making that much money and he was basically supporting us. And um, yeah, so I filed.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried for 3 years, went to counseling and a church counselor and prayer groups and tried so many things. And he just, it's a disease, so it's hard to get over. And of course, at that time, I didn't understand all that, although I was going to Al-Anon, which was helpful,
Yeah.
until I heard someone say that they'd been coming for 12 years and their husband was still an alcoholic. And I was like, I'm out.
Yeah. You're like, I'm not doing
I'm not hanging around for that long.
And I want to just mention that again. You said you were going to Al-Anon, right? Can you
Yes.
explain what that is? Because I know that's a great program for women who are need help in leaving and whatever. So explain what that is real quick.
Yeah, it's basically Alcoholics Anonymous for the other family members. So whether it doesn't have to just be a spouse or just for women, it can be a spouse, it can be a child, an adult child, a parent of an alcoholic. So there was people of all ages and, a mixture of tales, but it wasn't about complaining about the person and your life. It was about working on yourself and understanding that it was a disease and
Right.
that
Right.
kind of thing. And what they were going through, hopefully in AA. Mine wasn't going to AA, but
Yeah, yeah. And so in that marriage, you didn't work. Well, you did work. I do believe stay-at-home moms are working, in it. You're
yeah.
just not getting paid for it, right? So financially, you were not working. And so leaving this relationship, I assume it must have been a financial burden on you.
Well, I moved home with my parents.
Then there we go. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they had a big enough house and told me to come home, to them. And that was great. I lived there for a year and a half.
Mhm.
Um, so my father had leukemia. He actually passed away 5 weeks after we moved home.
Oh,
And so I was a help to my mom as well.
yeah.
We kind of helped each other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was good.
Yeah. And so what do you wish that you had maybe done differently in that marriage to I guess give you a better like financial launching pad when you got out of that relationship? Not that we prepare for divorce. You did not prepare.
No.
We're not like, oh, I'm getting married and I can get a divorce. You didn't think he was going to become an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But now that hindsight is 2020, have you ever had moments where you thought about like, okay, well, probably should have done this differently?
One thing was I was buying all the groceries and he would want me to buy a carton of cigarettes and his handle of gin or whatever.
Yeah.
I did quit doing that after a while and told him he had to go buy his own stuff, which he got really upset about. But that was something I learned in AA. Because I stayed home for those 10 years, and this happens to a lot of women over their whole lifetime, because
Yeah.
they take time off to raise the kids. They take time off to help their ill parents, either move or, they're sick too. And so that was 10 years with no social security going towards my future, or no retirement fund or anything like that. And so not only were you getting paid less money, sorry, I'm going off on a rant.
No, I
less
want
per,
to.
we're
No.
getting paid less per hour, and then we're working less, years than men.
Yeah.
And then when we get to retirement, usually they want us to retire when they are retiring, and usually we're younger. So it's just kind of a mess. But anyway, yeah, I wish one thing was he didn't sell the house, but his dad was a realtor and he calculated like how much my half would be if they did sell it. And he paid me $16,000. And
Oh
I
wow.
wish I would have done something good with that money, but I basically just over time blew it.
Yeah.
So I wish I would
Yeah.
have saved some of it or invested it, and, saved for a down payment on a house, something like that. But I didn't.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And yeah, I think it is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. For a lot of women, right? We're waiting for this Prince Charming to come save us. And I know that there was a book that you mentioned
yeah,
when we were having our conversation off air. So I just want to put that out there real quick. What was the name of the book again?
it's called Prince Charming Isn't Coming
Exactly.
by Barbara Stanny. Yep.
Yeah. And I wish that that was more of the story for us. Prince Charming is not coming to save you, darling. So let's get your financials in order, okay? Before you even really get serious about a guy to then get married. Because, like you said, you had 10 years of no money going to a 401k, to your retirement, or what have you. And I know that you're 54 now, and 10 years of money, I'm sure, would have put you, your trajectory would have been further
Right.
than where you are today. Do you feel like, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And also I did get half of his 401k. My lawyer came up with that.
Oh, wow.
So I wouldn't, most women don't realize that that's something that they can ask for in a
Mm.
divorce.
Oh,
I did forego asking for spousal support. I did get child support, obviously, but I only did that because the kickback for me was that he would let us move out of state with the kids. I left,
mm.
I had full custody of the kids.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so I
yeah.
didn't get spousal support, but I did get child support. So,
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? This is the question that I always ask every guest. Usually I ask it first, but I wanted to just jump right in. So I'll ask you this. Did anybody ever have a conversation with you about like what makes a healthy relationship versus an unhealthy relationship?
no.
Yeah, yeah,
Basically, it was you're there to serve him. You try to make him happy. You have the dinner on the table. I mean, this seems so stupid now, and I think I tried to do that in my first marriage.
yeah,
It was like, I've got to be the good little wife and,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
but
Again,
no.
if you're watching
Who
on Instagram, hey Riggs, if you want to see Stacy's face, you have to go to my Facebook page. If you want to get to my Facebook page, you can click the link in my Instagram bio. This is just kind of a behind the scenes. I like to have my face up so I can edit these videos later, but this will be a full episode on Single You, the podcast. Okay. All right. So, and it's interesting to me that, you're 54, so you're a little bit older than me. You look good, girl. But I
Thank you.
feel like we're still getting that message. Like you are there to just like be his everything, right? And be his peace and things that they say on the internet. Well, y'all need to be his peace and whatever. But again, we get into these situations thinking, oh, all I need is a man with money. It seems like he had a great job and you
Yep.
thought that you would be taken care of forever.
Yeah.
This,
And he
yeah.
was 8 years older. So I think that was I
Yeah.
was 20, or let's see, yeah, 20 when I met him.
Mhm.
And it was like he rescued me, from this crappy, not crappy roommate, but a roommate that was partying all the time. And I couldn't deal with that anymore. I was trying to go to work and be a good person. And he kind of just was like, come live with me and I'll take care of everything. And he did. But
Yeah.
then as time went on, my fighting spirit started resurfacing and my questioning and my, I'm not going to do that for you. You do it for yourself kind of attitude. And so at first it was hard for him, but eventually he got used to it. But then when he started drinking, of course, it was always everything was my fault. Well, I drink because of you. You
Yeah.
stress me out. You're not bringing in enough money, whatever. It's always your fault, which by the way, it's not your fault.
No.
You didn't cause it. You can't cure it.
Nope.
It's the other C. You can't control it. Those are the 3 C's they talk about in Al-Anon.
100%. Okay, so I just want to wrap this one up with the bow. So for that relationship, yeah, it may have been good in the beginning, and now you can correct me if I'm wrong. But the fact that he obviously changed to
Mhm.
your detriment and to his detriment, and then you were left basically holding nothing. And yeah, you got things out of the divorce, but it seems like maybe would you tell women who want to be stay-at-home moms, like, what would you tell them? Like, no, maybe work? Like, I don't really know where, because I'm not a mom, so
No,
I don't know.
I think it's an awesome thing if you can afford to do it, at least for a few years. Um, it's difficult. You
Yeah,
get lonely. Luckily I had a good support system of neighbors that were also stay-at-home moms, but otherwise no other family really around. So it was a little bit difficult.
mhm,
And when the husband gets home, then you're like, here, I've been doing this all day. You take the kids. But of course, that's the last thing they want to do. So that part is a struggle. But I just would say, try to plan to still put away for your retirement, because like I said, you're not going to get Social Security unless you can do something at home. That wasn't really an option when I was back in
right.
the 90s when I was doing it. But, try to do something where you're making a little bit of income at least, or your own money. And, try to have your own account. If a guy says you can't have your own savings account, that's a pretty big red flag, I think.
100%,
You,
yeah.
You
Yeah.
should be able to save your own money if you both agree on that, but again, like you said, the Bible, it kind of pushes that we're supposed to bow down to the man and do whatever he wants. And if he messes up the money, then that's on him. And it's like, no, but it, it affects me too, So
Exactly. Well,
those are hard stories.
right. And I will say this, it's not necessarily the Bible, it's people's interpretation of the Bible. And a lot of women, especially us faith-based Black women, I feel like we do not read the Bible. We just go to church and then we allow the preacher, our mentors, or what have you, tell you what the Bible is saying. And we hear this word submit, and then we don't realize that in the Bible, it actually says both. Like, wives submit to your husbands, husbands submit to your wives. Like,
True.
there's an order to this, and husbands need to be doing something that is very detailed and particular throughout the Bible for a woman to actually submit to them. I don't just have to submit to you because you're a man, but that's what they teach us. Like, oh well, he's the man, so he's the leader. But no, it's like, and that's why I do encourage my listeners for sure. Like, you really got to get into the Bible and read it for yourself, and stop letting society and these preachers tell you what submit means. Okay, so now so you get the divorce and you move back to Colorado, and I know that you meet a man, right? And so let's talk about that relationship, because I know that was definitely rocky and something that you should not have been in. Hindsight is 2020, right? So
Right.
tell us that story. Why do you believe that you fell for him, and then why do you believe that you shouldn't have been in it?
So it was a friend that I had grown up with, and he had been coming to visit my dad when he was ill. Of course, I wasn't living there,
Yeah,
And then when we moved there, he would still come. And of course, he was my age and I'd known him my whole life. And it was like, just a nice, refreshing, somebody different to talk to as a friend. But his dad had passed away from cancer as well, like 5 years before. So we had a lot in common. And after my dad passed away, I said to him, I just got to go do something. Like, I've been staying at home. I didn't get a job. I just stayed home and helped with my dad, and then all the funeral stuff and cards and everything. So we went out, and I think I wasn't thinking of it as a date, but he was. And then he kind of like made it more romantic. And, he didn't try anything or do anything serious until my divorce was final. But
Mhm.
he seemed like a good guy. I trusted him, obviously. I knew him, and my kids knew him. And so it was fine. But then obviously it was too soon. And my kids, especially the youngest daughter, who was in third grade at the time, got really upset and jealous of my time spent with him. And then as it got more serious, we dated for about 3 years. They didn't like him at all. And so it was this constant, do you give in to your kids and listen to them? Or you just like, no, this is what's going to happen. I don't care what you think, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
then after a while, nobody
Yeah.
liked him in my family, and he didn't like anybody else. And it just became really, really negative.
And so I heard you say, do you give in to your kids not liking him? But did you have red flags about who
Oh,
they?
tons,
Yes.
tons.
Okay,
Not
right,
at first, obviously, in the romantic stage,
right.
but very angry person, very racist, negative.
Uh-huh.
We would go to any kind of event with friends from high school or new friends or family. And the whole way home, he would tell how horrible every person there was, and he couldn't stand them. And it was just constant negative.
Yeah. But you guys had this trauma bond, and then you knew him since you were little, so it was like familiar to you. So you're in this relationship even though you knew that you shouldn't be in it, right? And so
Right,
it's like
right.
you get out of this marriage, and then you dive face first into this relationship, and having a boyfriend. What do you wish that you would have focused on outside of getting the next man?
Well, definitely just grieving both my dad and my marriage. Um, and and then also figuring out what kind of man did I want next, not that that was like on my radar that I got to find somebody to take care of me necessarily.
Right.
It just seemed like I'm not a real whole woman if I don't have a man, kind of thing, And I think felt that pressure from my mom too. Like, she was trying to set me up all the time and introduce me to people. And I mean, at first she was embarrassed that I was
getting a divorce.
Yes,
Yeah.
she didn't want people to know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then after a while, in fact, she wanted to put my ex, well, not he wasn't my ex when my dad died, but not officially, but she wanted to put his name in the paper, like as if we were still married, so people wouldn't question. And I was like, no.
I want to sit with that real quick because this is where a lot of women are. This is where my ideal client is. She feels the need that I need a man, and sometimes it's not even the pressure coming from inside. It's actually coming from external sources and then inside, because then you let it affect the way you feel about your singleness when your mom and your friends and everybody else is like, where's your man at? Where's your man at? And they're putting this pressure on you. The shame that your mother put on you because you were getting a divorce. I mean, of course, you went and hopped into, the next relationship because that is the only thing that makes us worthy, especially in the eyes of our older aunties, our mothers, and stuff like that. Having a man is the only thing that makes us worthy. Did anybody even ask you about, baby girl, are you financially okay? We need to get you a job. How are you doing? Did anybody ask you that?
No, no.
Stacey.
And I was my oldest daughter was in 7th grade and she was very angry and, doing bad stuff. And I had to deal with all that with the teachers in the school. Of course, she had to go to a new school, and middle school's hard, obviously. But I just hated going there knowing that people knew I was divorced. I just was so ashamed.
Yeah. Wow. That is, oh God, it makes me like want to cry that everybody else was like, well, maybe we should hide the divorce. So let's sweep that under the rug and let's get you in a new relationship and then everything will be okay. No, it wasn't okay. It wasn't okay. And
No.
so, oh my goodness, how did that relationship end? So you end the relationship with the boyfriend, the angry, racist, complaining about
Yeah.
everything. So proud of you for ending that relationship. So you end that relationship.
Yeah.
And then how soon? Well, first of all, how did that end? Did you break it off?
Yes, I broke it off. I'm pretty good at that when I
Ooh,
finally get my fill. I mean, it was hard because he, like I said, I'd known him my whole life. Our families knew each other, but he just, yeah, didn't really care about anything in my life. So I broke up with him, gave him his crap back, and then it was probably a year and a half
mhm.
before I met the third guy.
Yeah. Okay, we will talk about him in a minute because he's still living in a house that you own because your name is
Yeah.
on it. And sometimes you may have to pay for it. So we're going to talk about that in a second. But while you're going through this, right? So if you're paying attention to Stacey's story, she goes from divorcing her husband, having to move back in with her parents. While she's back in Colorado, she meets a guy who's familiar and she jumps into dating him. Any of that time frame, right, Stacey, when you were, getting out of divorce and whatever, did you ever go on a journey of like really figuring out how to love yourself? Like going on the self-love journey?
No, I felt like my whole life I've been a, person who reads self-help books. And again, back then there really weren't podcasts or all these different ways that you could get that information or get help. But no, I was way too busy started working at a college. My kids were both in school, it was just, and I was dating, and I don't really think that was even something that I would have thought about doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when we think about like getting over a breakup, like what did you think you were supposed to do? Like, oh, time will pass, or they say the best way to get over a guy is to get under another one. Is like that, is that what you were thinking?
No, no, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that wasn't important to me. I think it was so traumatic, the two things at the same time, that I really wasn't even looking or thinking about. I mean, it took probably a good 3 or 4 months to not be sad and,
Yeah.
a lot of things. And he was still called drunk, want to talk to me or the kids. And so I was still dealing with the ex from another state. I'd have to send them down there to him all drunk. It was horrible.
Oh, yeah.
So I never would have thought about myself, except that I knew I wasn't going to go back to him. My mom did keep asking me that. And my kids, kids are always like, are you ever going to get back with dad?
Wow.
But they
Yeah.
had no idea at that time what it was like.
Right. They were young.
Yeah.
And not to throw your mom under the bus, but man, mom, be on my side. Can we be on my side, in this situation? Um, so do you feel like, because again, I asked you, did anybody had a conversation with you growing up about relationships and what's healthy? Do you feel like a conversation and maybe some mentorship and some wise counsel around what a healthy relationship is and how to love yourself first and self actualize and then maybe go out there and date? Do you feel like a conversation like that would have helped you?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, I haven't even heard anything like what you teach until the last year, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and which showed up as a good time for my second divorce. But yeah, I have felt for a long time, though, that people needed to be divorced for like a year at least before they got into the next relationship or started
Mhm.
dating. And I know a lot of people don't do that. So, like
No,
you said,
no, because you're just ping ponging, like, well, especially again, the shame of it all. Like, not only are you getting a divorce, but then now you're sitting here single. And so for women who aren't even going through the divorce, we still have that shame of like, I'm literally a failure because I'm 35 and single. I'm literally a failure because look at my mom. It's where's the next boyfriend and what have you. And this is just an example. My mom don't be asking me about boyfriends. She already know. You do you, boo. You do you. But it's just like the shame that we sit in. Gabrielle Union said this, and it's so true. And she said that the world is very suspicious of women without kids. And so I added that the world is very suspicious of single women. And it's weird. It's like, so I can't be single. And because I'm single, I literally had somebody ask me, I mean, are you like truly happy? Yes. We never, being single, you cannot, there is no way that you can be happily single. No way. No way. And listen, I do believe that you can be happily single and still desire a husband, which is where I'm at. I'm not shunning anybody. I'm not saying, oh, all men are trash. And I don't believe that. But what I do believe is that I'm going to get God's best for me, or I'll just die single. And oh, well. Okay. So let's move on to the next man, who I know that you said that he was completely different from your ex-husband and he was super good looking and you fell for him, right? Talk about
yes.
him in the beginning. Yes.
And he's still very good looking, and it's hard not to
Yeah.
go back.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was 8 years younger, and I
Okay.
met him at a bar,
You tried
and
something totally different. You were like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna just try something completely different than what I've dated, and hopefully this one will work out.
yeah,
Yeah.
the only criteria really was that I wanted to have passion for this person, because with my first marriage, I felt like we loved each other and we cared about each other and everything was good, before he started drinking, but there was not like this passion for him. It wasn't like, oh, I just can't wait to see you or be with you. And so, yeah, we met at a bar, instant liking each other, found out we lived actually like 5 blocks from each other in the same town.
Yeah.
But of course I didn't know him growing up because he was younger than me. Our kids knew each other. They were in middle school and high school at the time.
Yeah.
He was still married, but basically had been, just kind of living in the same house, but not in a relationship with each other. But so that was probably my first big red flag, because that
I was
was
just about to
usually,
say we're not gonna bypass this. He was still married.
yes.
So
And they were living in the same house
yeah,
too. So,
yeah. And what was he saying about their relationship?
well, he said that she had cheated on him many times and left herself
Yeah.
and left him, and he'd always stayed and taken care of the kids and taken her back because of the kids, and basically stayed with because of the kids, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but when she found out, I think the youngest daughter told him, or, said something, and the cops were called. She was very angry. And so, lots of red flags. We were from different cultures, and he got in bar fights and wanted to go to bars all the time, which was something that I mean, occasionally with a group of friends, but like that's what he wanted to do Friday and Saturday night till it closed.
Yeah.
And it was kind of fun at first, and my kids were old enough, like I could leave them at home at that time, or, they go spend the night with a friend, but it was exhausting. And, but man, we had passion.
Right. And how well did that work out for you, that passion, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it wasn't good.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a lot of red flags. I mean, we were both struggling to make households work because we both had two kids and we're single.
Yeah.
But so we moved in together after about a year and a half of dating and moved our three, I think we had three high school kids at that time into one house. And it was quite eventful for sure.
Yeah.
Lots of feelings and emotions and hormones going around.
Right. And okay, so you're dating this guy who you've passed up some red flags and stuff. And so I want to check in with who you were at that time, especially financially. So where were you financially? You were still struggling?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So in the depression part of 2008, I bought a townhouse, which I shouldn't have done.
Yeah.
And so, but I was still getting child support and everything. So that was enough to pay for the mortgage. But then I was working at the kids' school. So again, for people that don't know, when you work for a school district, they take your 10 or 9 months of work and divide it into 12.
Yep.
So you get paid year round and have benefits year round.
Yep.
So not only are you only making, $15 an hour or something, I was in an office job, then they're also spreading it out over, 2 or 3 extra months. So it was not much money at all.
Yeah.
And we were scraping by. Luckily we had family to help, but so yeah, it was hard for both him and I. We were struggling a lot until we moved in together.
Right. And so at this point, you had you weren't thinking about, I need to like get myself financially together.
Well, I was. I mean, while we were living together, I finished college and got my degree in accounting and also my life insurance license that same year. I was 48. And so then I started learning more about, investing money and that you should have a budget. I mean, I kind of knew this stuff. I'd always worked in banking and accounting in my life, but I didn't have the degree. And
Yeah.
so as I started studying it more, what you should help your clients with, I was trying to do those things too. But when the other person in your relationship is, you're begging them for their half of the rent the day it's due, and they're scraping up cash under the mattress kind of thing. Or he lost his job for a while. I just always had a job that had benefits and a regular paycheck, and he always worked for himself. So after he lost his job. And so it was just always tight. We had total different ideas on how to handle money.
Yeah. And it's almost like he was pulling you down, right? Like there's a couple of things that I want to point out here is, well, first, do you feel like part of moving in together was the whole save money and share the bills? Do you feel like that's probably why you guys moved in together?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it helps.
Right. But then I feel like there's this like, oh, we like each other. Oh, and I'm kind of broken. So are you. So let's move in together and work it out that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Which probably if we didn't have kids, we probably would have moved in together a lot sooner. Yeah. But that adds up. They've got to want to do it too, obviously, and agree and get along with each other and each of us other parent,
Right. And see, and I would advise, like, if when my clients, if they were to come to me and like, oh, this guy, we want to move in together because we want to save money. That should never be a reason why you move in with a man, to save money.
Right.
I just know that it's never going to work out. You know what I mean? Because you're struggling, he's struggling, and then y'all just going to struggle together, especially when, like you said, you had the red flags of him never being able to pay his bills on time. You should not have to yell at somebody, scream at them, beg them to pay their rent on time. It's the same day. So if you are listening to this, I want you to understand that moving in with a boyfriend because you want to save money is probably not the wisest idea. At this point, what I would have told Stacy at that point in her life is like, no, baby, let's go ahead and get your finances together first, because you've never been financially able to take care of yourself on your own. So let's get that established first. And then if Boo Boo the Fool is still waiting around, sure. Hopefully at that time he wouldn't be Boo Boo the Fool. But it's like I wish that, and I know you too, and we're gonna go into kind of like your five money confidence pillars, but I just wish that again, we were taught as women how to be self-sufficient and self-actualized before we actually started thinking of Boo Boo the Fool. Like we think of yourself first, take care of yourself first, and then okay, then we could talk about dating and stuff like that. Because I know, and I can say all of these things because I know where you are now with this guy. So you guys end up getting a divorce, and he keeps the house, right? So you guys buy
Well,
a house together.
first we moved. So we both owned our houses when we moved in together,
Okay.
but neither of our houses were big enough for all of us to live in.
Okay.
So he rented his house to his parents, and I rented mine to just some random people.
Right.
And then when we got down to one kid, we thought we'll go back to his house because we sold mine in the meantime, because it was a really small house. And so we did. We moved back in, and the part of his divorce was that he had to get his ex and her parents off the deed and the loan, the mortgage, by time she turned 18, which was going to happen in a couple months. So he goes to qualify for this house, and he can't qualify because he owns his own business. He has no bookkeeping records, reporting, any kind of stuff for his business. He's just doing it on the fly, right? And so then he asks me, of course,
Which
I have a good.
Which is another red flag, right? I'm sorry, I just had to like. I really hope that you are following Stacey's story. We're dating,
and I'm a upstanding, like, I mean, by this point we're doing pretty good, right? Like we've been paying stuff on time. I paid off my car. I sold my townhouse, just all these things that things were starting to look up for both of us.
yeah.
And then he asks me to, first I had to get on the deed to be on the mortgage, right? They won't put you on the mortgage if you're not on the deed, unless you're like a co-signer. So we got myself on the deed. I think we had to wait a couple months before we could do the mortgage then. And we go to do the mortgage, and they say, okay, only I can be on the mortgage, not him, because he's going to make you have a higher interest rate because his, rate's so low or whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't have taxes, whatever. And we're both like, what? I mean, this is like at the signing, basically. And neither one of us wanted to do that. Like, I didn't want to be the only one on the mortgage, but like, if I didn't sign that day, then it would have been done, he would have had to sell the house, and, it's where his kids grew up and all this stuff. So like a dummy. And I knew I shouldn't do it. Like I knew, but I still did it. Signed that mortgage, and they told him, this is what you need to do so that it come back in a year, you can refinance. And if you've done those things, then you can be on the mortgage again. Well, we have refinanced. We've taken equity out. We've built a whole huge addition, and all under my name, because he still hasn't gotten his stuff together to be on the mortgage. Like if today we had to sell it, he couldn't buy it from me himself.
Wow.
And so nothing has changed since 2016.
Right. And I know that. So he's living in the house with your name on it.
Right.
And I remember that you told me that sometimes you have to worry about if he's going to be able to pay the mortgage this month, and it's going to fall on you because your name is on it. You don't go after him.
Yeah.
Go after you.
Yeah. And so because he's not on the mortgage, he couldn't just refinance it and take it over from me. He'd have to actually buy it from me.
Buy it. Yeah.
We did try to sell it for about 6 months, and all the sales fell through. So, he thinks it's worth all this money and wants to get tons of money out of it. That's his excuse for not trying to sell it. But it's like a 2,400 square foot house. He's living in it all by himself and trying to make all the payments and all the utilities. And it's just a mess. And like I said, if he defaults at any time, it's all on me.
Falls on you. So again, I hope that you are following Stacey's story, because if I'm listening to this is what I'm getting from your story, Stacey. We as women, we hope and we pray that the men that we like will become the men that we see in our head. even though he has not given you any evidence that he will become that man.
No,
We hope and we pray, and you probably even, because you said, I knew I shouldn't have done it, but it's his kid's house. It's the house that his kids grew up in, because you probably felt bad. So you're like,
I did. Well, plus it made me feel like, I mean, we weren't engaged or anything, even though we'd been together for like 4 years at this point. It made me feel like this is like a more permanent future, right? He really wants to have a relationship with me because we're signing
yes,
this paper on the house, right? Like that's pretty important.
yes, look at him. He wants to be with me so bad. He's going to let me put my name on his house. He wants
Yeah.
to be with me so bad.
And I have to say, when he asked me to move in with him the first time, or when we decided, I was just like, oh my gosh, this guy wants to live with me. Like I was like,
Because
you
we
know,
get excited because we got picked. We're like,
yes,
finally, this man picked me. And again, he is not showing you any evidence that he's actually a good, suitable husband for you. But
mm-mm.
because you get so excited that you get picked, as you said, we had passion. So, and it's like, again, how well is that working out for us? Oh, well, he's fine. So, you know what I mean? And then we'll also add in some other things. It's great that he owns his own job. He's an entrepreneur. That's awesome. But what does that have to do with him being a suitable husband to me?
No, it's great, yes,
Mhm.
but as an accountant, you need to take care of the money, and you can't do cash under the table deals, and you got to pay your taxes, and you got to, you know,
All of
pay
these
your
red
taxes on
flags,
time.
right? All of these
And
red flags
yeah,
slapping you in the face because it's about his character, right? Who he is in his entrepreneurial life is who he's going to show up as in his relationship. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like,
well, and
it was,
on his defense, I know how he was raised, and a lot of these things were never taught to him. He didn't know any different, right? And so, but I tried, and there was like never a compromise. I didn't know what I was talking about. And
right. So, because I want to say this about that comment. Oh, well, I know how he was raised, but it's not your job to raise him, right? You have two kids, you
no,
raise them. You know what I mean? So I want, again, you listening to get that point. I'm no longer falling for sob stories. I'm not here to help you with your insecurities. I'm not here to teach you things that you should know. And I'm 38, you're 54, as 35 plus old men. You should know how to pay your bills. You should know that you have to pay your taxes. We're not 22 anymore. We're not 15, right? So again, I hope you are following Stacy's story and getting the lesson, because now where you are as a 54-year-old woman financially, I know that when we talked off air, you said it's not the best, and it's a lot of it is because of the choices that I made with men. So talk about that.
well, when I left, was about a year and a couple months ago. I left as our divorce was going through the process. It was really slow last year because it was COVID time and
Yes.
courts were bogged down. Um, but we were selling the house, so I thought, well, the house is going to sell, and I moved out before it had sold. So he was, of course, complaining, and so I paid half the bills still, just like I was when I was living there, and paid half the bills when I moved in. I live with my older daughter. We share a house. So I did that for like 5 months maybe, and just went in the poorhouse. I also lost my job during that time. Actually, we'd only been moved out about 4 weeks when I lost my job that was paying like $80,000 a year at the time. And so all of a sudden I'm on unemployment, have no health care. I'm trying to support two households.
Yeah.
And, like I said, the thought that it didn't sell was just, we never thought that would happen. So here we are getting ourselves into another mess.
Yeah.
Um, so now, as most people know, unemployment's ran out, and I'm trying to get my insurance business built up and do odd jobs and bookkeeping for people and make ends meet. So it's not been easy, but I always have that worry in my head. You really do need that emergency fund, in case something comes up, in case, he could get COVID and not be able to make the rent because he works for himself, right? And he
Yeah.
can't go to work. So there's so many reasons that something could happen, or get injured in a car accident, or
Yeah. Does he feel any like, oh, I'm gonna try to help you? Like, what is he saying? Or is he just riding off into the sunset?
no, he wants me to fix everything all the time. He wants me to find cheaper homeowners insurance and He wants me to try to, refinance. But obviously, I'm not in a position since I work for myself to refinance the house, which would lower the payment.
Right.
Um,
Right.
it's, and he constantly wants me back.
And
So I
you
have
make
to say,
sure-
out of the three guys,
yeah.
he's the only one that I didn't hate and loathe when I left. I still care about him. I still see him because we own a house together, and still live close
Let
by
that
each
switch
other.
back in, Stacey. Like, I'm pretty sure you're have arrived at the place where like I'm not going back.
No.
But there's something that you said earlier that even though nobody had a conversation with you about what makes a healthy relationship versus unhealthy relationship, but you were like into reading self-help books. And it goes back to what my mentor says. So my coach is Pastor Darius Daniels, and he always says people can be full of inspiration and full of ignorance at the same time, because you're reading the books, you just don't know how to execute what you're reading into your real life, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not really the dots to learn how to set and keep boundaries with men. They're not connecting. They're not connecting.
Yeah.
So that is why I do what I do, because if nobody actually, because to be honest, like after your first divorce, that's when the journey should have started with you. Like,
Right.
I got to figure
But
out.
I do have to say, I don't know if you've been in this position, but when you're really broke and down, it depresses you, right? Like the night I met Chris at this bar, my friend was begging me to go. And I was like, I don't even have the $5 to get in there, let alone buy any drinks or anything. And she was like, if you can come up with the $5, I'll buy your drinks. Well, we didn't have to buy our own drinks, obviously, once we got there.
Yeah.
But I remember like finding an old like bank deposit thing and finding like $12 in there, and it's like, I can go to the bar. I mean, it was like I had nothing. And
Yeah.
so I think when you're down and you're depressed and you're dealing with so much pressure on you, it's a lot easier to make stupid decisions.
100%.
You
100%.
know?
Yeah. Yeah, because that is a very lonely feeling, and somebody showing you attention, absolutely.
And
Um,
especially when you're single, you don't have anybody to lean on.
yeah, yeah. But that is why the journey of self-actualizing and loving yourself needs to happen, so then you understand your triggers. So then you
Yes.
understand when you're in that depressed state that, you know what, I really cannot show you anything right now. I don't have any time to entertain you because I need to fix me. I need to figure out what's going on with me before I even do that. But we don't even have the education and wherewithal to do that. We just think, oh, being in this relationship will fix all my problems. But it doesn't. It never does. So again, I hope that you are following Stacy's story, that she is right. When you hit that rock bottom and you are super sad and super lonely, and it doesn't even have to be financial rock bottom. It could be emotionally rock bottom. We as women, we are very emotional.
Or health.
Right. Yes, exactly. It could be the health or emotional rock bottom. And then here comes this man promising you the world, you dreaming up this life with him that you let in. You are never going to get on your feet. That's not how it works. If his character is not suitable to be a husband to you, it's never going to work. We can hope and pray as much as we want to, but God doesn't make alterations. God is like, I didn't make him for you. Good luck. Figure it out. You know what I mean? Figure it out, because we do have free will. And sometimes I think God, I think because we don't study what love actually is. Like, we all know the scripture: love is patient, love is kind, love is da, but nobody knows how to execute that in life. Nobody, because you're not actually reading the scriptures. So we say that we believe in God and we say that this is what love is, but we actually have no idea. So then when we get into these relationships, we think, oh, all I have to do is like hope and pray and it'll become. No, we need to be looking at people's character as well, because as the Bible says, it's a principle: bad company corrupts good character. And I feel like this, especially the last husband, bad company
Yeah.
corrupts Stacy's good character, right? And so,
And good credit.
and credit, right? Good
Yeah.
credit, good character, good emotional state, good,
Yeah.
whatever it is. So, okay. So I want to get into the last few questions. I do want to know, what do you hope your daughters learn from this? Because you have two daughters who are watching you. They're in their 20s now. And then you have grandchildren who are they both girls too?
Yes.
Who are
Yes.
daughters. So what do you want them to learn from your story?
Well, one thing is to be financially literate themselves, like understand how things work, understand that they can do it themselves too. Have that backup plan, have a plan. So many kids, and they're kind of both doing this right now, just like, I'm having fun, I'm just trying to get by and have a good time and meet people. And that's good too. But there, you also have to think about, write down those things. What kind of man do you want? Even if it's what I don't want, right? Make that list of 50 or 100 things. Second, when you meet that person and you start getting serious with them, of course, what are the things you're going to talk about? Do you want to have kids or not? What's your religion? What's maybe your party in, politics?
Okay.
Well, that's probably a question these days.
Today. Right. Today, yes. Maybe not 20 years ago.
I mean, I would probably think that for myself. And then you say, what is your money story? I had a friend who married a gal who had tons of credit card debt, and he had no idea until they got married. And so that needs to be another question. Do you like mesh on that? Because we all know that's a huge reason people get a divorce or break up, because they have money arguments, right? And disagreements.
Yep.
And that definitely was the case for me. And also just to be, your self-love. You should be able to be happy whether you have a man or not. He's not the answer.
Nope.
And you can't put that on him. That's not fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
To put your happiness on somebody else.
Because even if it's a good guy, right? Like, even if it's a guy who is suitable, possibly to be a husband, maybe not your husband, it is not fair for us as women to say, yay, he's coming to save me. Ain't nobody saving anybody out here. Like, that's not how it works. So let's not go into relationships like that. Like, oh, she's here to save me. I'm here to save her. He's going to save me. That is not a relationship makes. It doesn't. So X that out of our mind.
Right.
What was there anything else on that list? Like,
No.
Okay. So I do want to touch on financial abuse, because that is a thing. And I know earlier you said, if he is, saying he doesn't want you to have your own accounts and stuff like that, he is setting you up to be abused. So let's talk about maybe two financial like situations that were unfortunately abusive. I know that you had kind of two stories.
Yeah. So one, and I don't know if I mentioned this one the other day, but I thought about it since. A client of mine, a woman, was going through her 5-year divorce had just ended.
Mhm.
And what started it all is her son was getting ready to go to college. And so she was like calling the financial advisor saying, okay, how much money does he have in his 529 plan, which is a savings plan for college?
Mhm.
And her husband had cleared out both his and his sister's accounts and spent all the money, and had through I don't know if it was just in the last 5 years or when he did it, before the divorce or whatever. But she had no clue, because she was never checking statements. She was not looking at what was going on with her money. She was, getting don't worry, honey, I'll take care of everything. You don't need to know. Or some men get mad when you ask, to see statements and ask questions. And even financial advisors and other professionals in finance could be, try to treat women differently and like make them feel bad because they ask questions or they don't understand. And then we just shut down and stop asking. So first of all, you need to be looking at those statements every month.
Yeah.
Bank statements, credit card statements, student loan statements, any place you have money.
Right. It's like, be a woman who wants to know where the money is going.
Yes.
That would stop.
Because it's your money too. Even
Yes.
if you're not making it, you're staying home, or you're not making as much. You need to know what's going on. And secondly, was a situation with a young couple who they lived kind of in a remote area. They had an online business, and they both worked equally in the business. They sold products, so it was delivered to their house and they shipped it out. He only gave her like $100 a week allowance kind of for working, and he controlled all the rest of the money. If they went anywhere for meals or shopping, or she did anything like that, she had to ask to spend more than she was allotted that time. I mean, it was just really controlling. And even though other people could see it, she would was like, no, he's doing such a good job with our money, which he was, but he was controlling everything and she had no idea what was going on. So that's a huge red flag. If somebody won't let you have passwords and access to accounts, red flag. Why? And this is going to cause an argument. But
Yeah.
then that's even more of a red flag. There shouldn't be anything they should be hiding. And I'm not telling women to have their own secret savings and not tell them. I don't encourage couples to have any secrets within each other, but you need to be equally, some people do a budget, like maybe they have a joint account, but then they each get $500 a month to spend on whatever they want, no questions asked, that kind of thing. And if you want to save your $500, you can.
Right. And I think that if we want to be these people who are like, well, I want to do whatever I can with my money and this and that, then we don't need to be married, because that is a marriage. Like I follow I follow Dave Ramsey, and there's a lot of other financial gurus that I follow, and they always say, you and your husband sit down once a month, da 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 da,
money dates.
Yeah. Like we need to have our money Monday meetings. You know what I mean? Every first of the month at 2 p.m. That's where we sit down. Make it fun.
Yeah, that can be wine, or I know a couple that they go get a hotel for the night.
Oh, wow.
And they talk about everything, and then they go out for dinner and have like a date night afterwards.
Oh, I like that. Let me write down I need to write that on my list of what I want in a relationship. That's super cool. Because you should want to know where your money is going. Okay, so you have like a money confidence, kind of like 5 pillars. Do you want to talk about?
So I used to be a money coach, and I'm still here to help any woman who has a question or wants to learn more. I can, share some of the things I've done. But what I used to teach was money confidence for women. And the first pillar is money mindset. So all the stuff like we're talking about today is basically considered mindset, how you're thinking about money, what's your relationship with money. And it all kind of started when you were growing up, and just, did your parents fight? Did they get paid once a month and then go blow it all in the first week?
Yeah.
And then you were scraping by the rest of the month, or maybe your parents had lots of money, or maybe your parents take care of all your money and, give you money and you don't have to worry about it all. I mean, there's just so many aspects to it, but you can choose what you want it to be. And then the second pillar is tracking your money and making a budget. Like there's mint.com or YNAB, which stands for you need a budget.com. Those are both free platforms that you can link to your checking and savings and credit cards, and it'll show you what you're spending your money on and kind of see where you're at. Because if you don't know where you're at, you're working so hard to make that money and sacrificing time away from your family and time doing what you want to get that paycheck, and then you're just ignoring it. Yeah. I mean, besides paying your bills, you got to save, you got to invest, you got to see where your money's at. Don't just waste it all. And then at the end of the month, you have nothing to show for all your hard work. The third pillar is savings and investments. So just making sure you have that emergency fund and other kind of savings that you need for college or different things. Fourth is paying off debt. So making a plan to pay down your debt a little extra each month. I know that's hard when you're a single person, but you can take on extra things. There's so many things you can do online now, or sell stuff, obviously.
Right.
And then part of that is to cut back on the emotional spending, where you're buying things on credit, like using a credit card, or, getting a loan when you buy a stove at Home Depot or whatever, financing it. And then the fifth thing is just educating yourself. Just there's so many ways online. Pursestrings.com is a good one. There's so many things, and that's just for women. Lots of information on there. So don't make the excuse that nobody ever taught you, because nobody ever taught me either. Nobody ever taught Rika.
Yeah.
You need to do it yourself. You need, just like you're learning about having a good relationship with yourself and with others and being single, you need to learn and educate yourself about money. And I can help anybody with that. So if you want to reach out, I'm here.
And I love how you said, don't make the excuse like nobody ever taught us, right? At this big age that we are, everybody who, you know what I mean? Like my clients are 30 plus, professional women. We're grown now, and we need to be intentional. Let me start over. We're grown now, and we need to be intentional with where our money is going, especially with where our heart is going. We need to pay attention to those things, especially if you deem yourself a faith-based woman. The Bible says, guard your heart. And we run around here saying all of these scriptures, and I want a God-fearing man, and this and that, and da da da. And we have no idea what it means. You know why? Because we don't do any studying. The Bible also says, my people perish from lack of knowledge. So if you are lacking knowledge in an area, don't you think it's time to actually educate yourself in that area? Because wherever you are ignorant is where you will suffer.
And
Whatever lane you are ignorant in is the lane that you will suffer in. Go ahead, Stacey.
it also says wherever your wallet is, basically, is where your heart is.
Yes. Yes.
So if you're spending all your money on going out and partying or clothes, shoes, your house decorations, is that what you idolize, right? Is that where your heart is? Or is it, I mean, that's just a scripture. So
No, you are absolutely right, Stacey. If you're spending money on things, on outside things, it
yeah,
lets you know that you are a woman who holds value in that. Like, I need to, make sure my eyebrows are waxed, make sure my face is beat, get me the new red bottoms or the Jordans because I'm a tomboy, and get all of these things together so then I can attract a man. And then
yeah,
once I attract that man, I am now valuable. When that's not the thing that makes you valuable, honey, you were born, right? And so God already knew you before he formed you in your mother's womb, which means he knew you, which means you are already valuable. He already made you whole, right? And
yeah,
so seeking outside things to make a man pick me, I don't want you to be that woman. I want you to be a woman who holds yourself accountable to the things that you say that you want. So what I find in my line of work and being the single girls life coach and helping women learn how to set and keep boundaries, they'll come to me, and a lot of them cannot afford me because they have so much credit card debt because of all the things that they were spending money on that made no sense, that actually didn't add any value to your life. And men and I'm talking about my old self as well. I have the whole story of the $10,000 boyfriend. I one of my there was a young lady that was in my DMs, and she said that she had spent money on a guy, literally paid for his semester in college just so he would stay with her. And so you have that debt, but now you can't afford me as a coach. That makes no sense to me. And I
right.
feel sorry for you. It's like I feel sad for you. And I hope that you will actually turn yourself around and say, okay, this isn't working. This isn't working. And so I need to do something differently. And the way that you change your whole life and behavior is by investing in yourself, either in time and or money. You have to do that. If you say that you want to be this woman who is happy in her singleness, who can slow down the dating process, you are going to have to invest in yourself, whether it be with time and or money. I
Right.
did both. I did both, time and money. Okay, so I want to end on this, Stacey. Moving forward, how is Stacey going to be dating? What red flags will you no longer pass up? I'm sure you're not going to be dating for a while, but I would just love to know, who is the woman you're going to be moving forward?
Yeah, it's already been a year. Well, you're totally divorced, I guess. Um, and I really don't have any desire right now to date. I really enjoy doing whatever I want and nobody saying, I don't like that restaurant or I don't want to watch that show. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
So I'm really enjoying that. And I don't know if I'll ever actually get married again, but definitely someone I feel that is more emotionally, financially stable than I am. Just like a little has done the work to understands why you would want to do that work, understands dealing with mixed families. Obviously, we would probably both have kids and grandkids, and goes to church.
Yeah.
I've never had one of those. So I'd like a man, which is crazy. I've gone to church my whole life, but I've never had a man that goes with me. So
Yeah.
that's definitely important.
What is the word that my cousin used? My cousin said that when she was dating, she knew that she didn't want to what's the word? Of course I'm not going to remember it because now I'm putting myself on the spot. But anyway, make sure with the goes to church, watch for his character though. Like, what?
True, true.
Trust me, I've had my last two went to church, but baby, they wasn't anything. Okay, so I will leave you listening with this question. Okay, after hearing Stacey's story and hearing this podcast episode, I want to ask you this question. When you say he got to make money, I need a man who makes six figures. He got to be a high value man. Why do you say that? I want you to think about that. Why do you say that? Where is that coming from? All right. And with that, we are going to end this. Somebody was messaging me on Facebook. End this and bye, everybody.